Alright. What's up, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're looking at another Oliveira game, but it's not just another Oliveira game. This is the man that became the surprise world champion, and everybody's talked about the many twists and turns that allowed one of the most magical championships to ever come. But I haven't seen anybody talking about this specific game where his tournament run started, up against Clem down here in the bottom right side. And this is one of the craziest matches ever that changed the entire course of the tournament. For those who don't know, Oliveira was about ranked 20 in the world with literally no one expecting he could possibly win the world championship. And he came into the group stage and he barely got out of the groups. If he lost a single other map in this entire tournament, he would have been knocked out and Neeb would have gone out in his spot. Neeb beat him 2-1 in the head-to-head. And the only reason he advanced over Neeb is because he had one better map score over Neeb. So if he'd lost one extra map anywhere in the group stage in the round robin, he actually would have been eliminated. And that, when you put that in context, that adds so many twists and turns. I mean, we can talk about the Reina comeback. We can talk about the Serral losing to Ragnarok that also played big parts in his championship win, and we'll mention those later. But for now, keep in mind, this was the very first match, day one of the entire tournament, and I was actually standing on the analysis desk. We'd just done an introduction segment as I started this game, and I was watching this on my laptop. It was being cast on the C stream. It was the B stream or the C stream. I think it was the C stream, right? So not many people were watching it. Very first game of the tournament on the C stream. There's maybe 500 people watching this at most at this stage. Probably only 100 or 200, right? And it's a TVT. It's a group stage match. And honestly, Clem is a player who everyone had high hopes for. If he could fix his TVT, his TVP woes against those top Korean players, we know that he is the best Terran at defeating guys like Reina and Serral, right? That's what his real specialty is eliminating those top-tier European Zergs. Oliveira, on the other hand, has been practicing very hard leading into this. But first group stage match in a very tough group, and it's really going to be a test for him to see how he can perform. Now, he's going for a blind build here, no scout, double gas into 2 Reapers and a factory. Clem doing the exact same thing. So mirrored build orders between the two players, both of them going 2 Reapers and a Hellion. And hey, what a good way to start off the tournament and see who's in a more skillful situation, right? A true test of who's going to perform better under pressure. Exactly mirrored builds. Oliveira starts his depot slightly earlier. Clem has not started that depot yet. He's going for the quickest starport, and the starport goes down a few seconds later, and then the depot goes down for Clem as well. Now, that does mean Clem is going to be supply blocked on this SCV for 5 seconds. So slight mistake for Clem. 5-second supply block, not a big deal. Basically means he's going to be half an SCV down. Other than that, though, they're both building Reapers and Hellions. Widowmine coming out for Clem as well. Looks like he'll be in a bit more of a defensive stance. And Oliveira in the south side with some Reapers. Now, I cannot just mention enough during this downtime at the start how huge every single map ends up mattering. For any of you who are Uthermal fans, go and look at Uthermal's runs. He was famously unlucky in Katowice, often not progressing even when he had 3 wins and 2 losses in the groups by being like 1 map score or 1 head-to-head lower than a different person that took his spot. And remember that Oliveira eventually ended up going out in a 4-way tie where 4 players in the groups were fighting for the 3rd place spot. Because 6 players in the group, rank 1 and 2, were clearly ahead of everyone else with Dark and whoever else the other player was, can't quite remember. And then it was like 4 people with 2 wins, 3 losses, and it all had to come down to that head-to-head. And that's the sort of situation where you're like, man, every map counts in Katowice. You also get money for winning every single map as well. So even if you don't progress, every map or every series you win does give you cash. 3rd command center is on the way. Both players playing very cautious. Clem playing surprisingly defensive, but it is Gresvin. It's a rather long map, so I can see why he's doing it. And notice that Oliveira, this Hellion is waiting for him to move out. As soon as he moves out, the Reapers are going to jump in. So Oliveira is setting up a very classic bait here. The Reapers are going to pull back a little bit. I think they're going to go back in, but maybe not. Okay, looks like Clem's searching for them. Clem's actually hunting for them, making sure there's nothing down here. His Reapers are going to go across the map. And it seems like a dead even build in this scenario so far. Ragnarok was also in this group, and he absolutely aced the group as well, actually. He got 1st place, I believe. Just dominated, even defeating Dark in a very dominant Zerg vs. Zerg, actually. Ooh, okay. Nice Reaper run by for Clem here. It's been pretty even so far, but man, if you let Clem get going, he's very fast and he's very good at just kind of smothering his opponent. And I gotta say, to be honest, I was watching this on my laptop more with an eye to how will Clem do? Can Clem step up and fulfill his prophecy? I wasn't really looking at this thinking Oliveira could make it out of the group. I know Oliveira is good and could beat Clem and could maybe make it out of the group, but even making it out of the group, bit of a long shot for Oliveira. But 3 SCVs, gets the 3 Reaper kills. That's a perfectly fine trade for Oliveira. And his third command center is a little ahead. So, not too bad. Second and third barracks is faster, though, for Clem. Now, that's interesting. And you can see why. It's because Oliveira is actually keeping up his building, his tech unit production a little bit more. See, he's got the third Raven building a lot earlier. His third barracks comes down later, and he's going to use his starport to start building extra reactors. So notice he's going to have this reactor and this reactor to swap those barracks around. That's going to get him straight into 3 racks bio production, so he can kind of maraud forwards from there. Double engineering bay will time out with that. You guys know there's these modular pieces to Terran play. You want the 3 barracks going down. You can see Clem's done the same thing a bit faster. You want the double upgrades going down. Then you have stim, shields, medevacs, 1-1 upgrades all come together. And you go from what is a rather immobile unit comp, it's mostly just a few tanks, ravens with some supporting units, to what is a very marine, mobile, stim in, massive damage output composition. But at this phase, it's all about the ravens, and Oliveira's got 3 of them. Remember, auto turrets are much weaker. They get blasted, but you do have... Oh, the Reaper run by comes in for Oliveira. He distracts. The Cyclone splits off. The other units go to the front. Interference Matrix is as good as it always was in this patch. Ravens are cheaper. They build faster, but Interference Matrix still shuts units down for 11 seconds. So the Raven is more than ever about the Interference Matrix. It was always one of its best abilities, but it used to always have the option to throw down a lot of auto turrets, which were amazing at tanking, and now the auto turrets tank a tiny bit, but they're more of a damage-dealing unit than anything else. All right, Reaper's going down to that bottom left side. We've got Marines coming out, Siege Tank there as well. And here we go, Reaper's on that top side. Okay, this is still such a passive TVT, right, guys? They're like, Pig, what's this game? Guys, keep in mind the tension of both players. No one's taking risks. They're both scouting to make sure they don't get dropped. And really, you know it's going to heat up. Because when you play a game to this point where you both just let each other get to 3 base, you know things are going to explode into action. The scary thing and what makes me nervous when I'm in Oliveira or Clem's shoes in this sort of game is I know the first engagement often decides the game. In this sort of one where there hasn't been a lot of back and forth, usually one person gets the better engage and it spirals from there. Not always, but it often does happen. And I think it's not like it should happen. It's not as common with like a guy like Maru in the game, but with most players, when there's been such limited interaction, it feels like one player, when the fighting happens, takes a much cleaner engagement, whereas the other one tends to like botch it quite hard. And in this case, it's kind of like, hey, who's gonna stay more calm? Few more Marines for Clem, 1 more Raven for Oliveira. Clem starting to branch out with some Marines. He's got a 4th command center on the way. On the other hand, we've got extra barracks going down. Oh, no, 2nd factory going down here for Oliveira. And 2nd factory going down for Clem. Both players getting ready to swap those onto the tech lab. Missile turret on the top does spot this drop coming in. But well defended is Oliveira. He's got Ravens in the main. Remember, he can just spam down interference matrices to stop the medevacs from unloading and boosting. Or drop auto turrets on top of them. So Oliveira very calmly realizes, hey, 3 Ravens on their own can defend a pretty big drop. And that's something I never really thought of, is just using Ravens alone to defend a drop. Very cute, just calm handling. Oh, Widowmine says no. And Oliveira's going to pick up and get out of there with that drop. He's like, nope. We need to get home and heal those boys. 4th command center is finishing for Clem. 2-2 upgrades are seconds apart. And finally, we see a change in investment. Oliveira's going Vikings. So Oliveira is going to try and take the skies, which as you go to maxed out late games, especially with heavy tank counts, Viking control in the skies is very important. We still don't see that from Clem. He's still building medevacs, which means Clem's going to have more mobility, more ability to drop. But if it kind of gets in a bit of a stalemate, where you're both sitting across with your tank lines just out of range, the Viking player gets air control, starts picking off medevacs, and their tanks can start to leapfrog forwards. They can also add Liberators in as well. So I actually prefer Oliveira's position right now. Remember, the tables can turn very quickly. That planetary is not quite done. He's going to stim in. Clem going for a dangerous dive here. I don't think he can commit to that. Marines and tanks do push him back. Gets the sensor tower, pulls back. He's going to try and shove through the middle at the same time. Oliveira moves to the right side, and he is completely prepared. Okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, the thing is, he could go back in, right? Oh, Oliveira shoots his own tank. Oliveira, no. Oliveira accidentally kills his own tank. A little bit of that first game, day one. I'm telling you guys, this was day one, first game of the group stage, the entire tournament for Oliveira. And, you know, you get a bit excited. Nice scan. Oh, nice scan, though. He saw him walk in Sensor Tower Vision. He sees Clem pick up. Clem's getting ready for a big engage, though. Problem is, Oliveira doesn't know about this army. Notice Clem's keeping that just out of vision. Oh, this could go bad for Oliveira. He's kind of flanked. His Marines are trapped behind his siege tanks. His Marines were very slow to stim. His Ravens come in. They do get some interference matrices off, but his Marines were trapped a little far behind, but the interference matrices may pay off. Oliveira, can he get those Marines to the north quickly enough? No, he can't. The tanks are going to win that fight. Oliveira gets caught out. Oh, and Clem takes a very good fight, but Oliveira drops a few Marines, takes out one extra tank with friendly fire. But it seems like the tank count for Clem does hold strong. 9 tanks versus 4. And he's just going to go forward and click on that siege tank. Is that a bit too much? Yes, Clem does overcommit there. I think throwing away 2 or 3 tanks there, not necessarily the best play. If he could just siege the sensor tower and scan his way forward, he'd be in a good spot. But 5th Command Center is on the way for both players. Clem's finishing. Oliveira's only just starting. Finally, after 9-10 minutes of build-up, we are going to see these players start to explode into the action. But Clem's the one with the forward position. He's up on Marines. He's got a 5 tank advantage. Oliveira has the Vikings, though, and he can use those Vikings to shoot down the medevacs. Notice Clem is still doing nothing but medevac production. I played a crazy TVT the other day in a tournament at a much lower level on this exact same map versus Jason, where I did this non-stop Marine tank style. Notice Clem has 8 barracks. It's all about picking up tanks, dropping them in forward positions, and just abusing your mobility. The Vikings, on the other hand, for Oliveira, say, no, I'm playing classic TVT. I am just going to defend and hold these positions, but my tank count's way down, and my style relies on tanks. Thankfully, he's got a few libs. The Marines are going to try and stim in. Clem gets 1 lib. Oh, very nice move for Clem. Those Liberators were huge, because with the Vikings and the libs, you can push your opponent back. But Clem takes care of them, and Clem is maintaining position on the front. And the problem here is Clem's now got a 5th base mining in the top. 5th base hasn't even finished building yet for Oliveira. So Clem is starting to swallow this map up right now. He's got 14, 15, 16 Marines were building for a second there at a time. And he's just going to be able to remax. If Oliveira leaves any openings in this game, Clem's going to pounce on him, because look at the spread of these bases. And when he takes a 5th base, he's going to be even more exposed. So Clem is just going to be strangling him in this map. Now, there's a nice scan there. Does he see? No, he drops just outside of scan range, does Clem. Double drop on the north could get something done, but there are planetaries on all these bases. So Clem is being very defensively responsible while adding orbitals. So he's building towards the Iron Bank as well. The tanks are going to move in. The tank of Oliveira there is going to get, oh, focus down maybe? Oh, Clem focuses the tank and says, now I've got tank position. That base is getting annihilated. Oliveira, he's just on the back foot. He can't afford to be losing all these units. He's going to try and counter drop on the north, but he can't do anything. It's a planetary. That base goes down, and Oliveira getting that sinking feeling of like, well, I'm building Ravens, and technically they're the efficient unit, but you're doing it on 3 base versus 5. And the thing is, you've got a much slower technical composition. Clem, on the other hand, has endless Marines. He can lose a fight, replace those Marines so quickly. He's kind of playing Zerg versus you playing Terran. Clem's playing the swarming style. Oliveira's playing the technical style, where he's trying to use his units just right. Oh, I love this push on the north. If he can get a nice siege up and just take a good fight, that'd be great. Get the sensor tower, and then just create pressure. Pick off a few buildings there. This, if he drops in that natural as well, could cause problems. Clem doing really well. But Oliveira, in such a bad position. He's getting doom dropped in his main, and he chooses to go across the map. Oliveira dives across the map. He says, no, 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 you're so focused on killing me. You've committed so much army to my side of the map. And look at that. That army just sitting out there doing nothing. Oliveira dives across the map, realizing he is in a terrible spot, but he recognized the one path to maybe creating some chaos. But oh my God, it doesn't matter, because Clem's just going to shove in and do so much more damage than him. Or is he? That army stumbles into the siege tanks and goes down. Clem taking massive damage right now. And it looks like actually maybe Oliveira gets even more done than him. The Marines and the tanks here coming back for Clem. Clem's going to clean up those. Oh, but Clem gets rid of all of these expansions. If he can take out that planetary as well, this should be almost all the economy gone. On the other hand, Clem's main base is under trouble, but the Marines massively overstimmed for Oliveira, and that siege tank in the bottom is doing huge damage. It's already up to 13 kills. Make it 14, make it 15. That tank is going to clear this whole army out, and then he can potentially get Marines on top. Clem is pulling home. Clem did not catch these SCVs in the north, nor that base. That's Oliveira's lifeline, because remember, base mine mining, base mining, and 2 extra command centers. Clem kept all 80 SCVs alive. He is losing his production though. A lot of his production's going down, but he's got so many extra barracks in the bottom. If he can just clear this push with this flank, Clem is miles ahead in the follow-up because he's got 3 bases mining versus, well, I guess back to 3 bases, 4 bases actually for Oliveira, technically. But Clem's got another command center that he can fly back to a position that he hid in the bottom left. He's got so many more command centers up in total. Those 15 workers. And Oliveira's ahead in army, though. Oliveira's ahead in army and gets a command center. Great catch for Oliveira. Oliveira's okay. He's managed to keep himself alive. Remember, his production is intact. There's only 1 factory left for Clem, and Clem's losing another barracks. So Oliveira, with that thrust, took himself from slowly getting strangled out of the game to fighting back, doing a very necessary counterattack, a bit of a YOLO, but he's still on the Raven tank Viking comp, which means Oliveira has to play a more defensive style. Siege tanks aren't really in position right now. He could interference matrix the 3 tanks and then move 3 tanks of his own forward to siege. And Clem realizes that could happen, so he actually unsieges and pulls back. Good move by him. Gets the gas and 4 SCVs and does back on off. Now let's look at the production. Second factory is rebuilding. He's still got 6 reacted barracks, so he can still build 12 Marines at a time. Ken Clem, but +3 vehicle weapons is on the way, as well as Ravens building 2 at a time for Oliveira. Oliveira having faith in the Ravens. I always feel like Ravens are the ultimate efficiency unit if you play a very perfect or near perfect game, but oh man, Marines running in that left side. Clem is just, oh, he's always got the forward positions. Oh, he even gets a Raven there, but the rest of the units do come over and defend, but denying this mineral line. So Clem's denying that base, but Oliveira's got a new base up behind it. Clem, meanwhile, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases mining, but Oliveira's just hanging in there. He is just defending, and this is what Oliveira has been practicing. In the last month or 2 leading up to Katowice, we saw more and more games in the weekly cups where he was turtling out late games versus Dark and TVZ. He was turtling out in every matchup. He was really showing Maru-esque evolution in his play where he was having very good late game. Clem doesn't quite get the command center and maybe overcommits a little bit. It's still very good damage. Still denying that mineral line as well. This mineral line looking mighty exposed. Clem is expanding like a goddamn plague across this map. I told you guys he's playing Zerg, man. He's literally playing Zerg Terran. He's just like endless Marines and tanks. And this is such a good tournament style because like I said, if he messes up a fight, he loses some Marines, he replaces them. On the other hand, Oliveira, if he messes up a fight with Vikings and Ravens, if they suddenly don't have tanks covering them, Vikings and Ravens are worthless first Marines. They will disappear and you'll lose so much value so quickly. He's down in army supply. He's down in workers. He's having this mineral line denied. He's strapped in a corner. But in the midst of it, whenever Clem has him pinned, Oliveira just digs his heels in at home and he splits off as many units as he can for the backstab. And he does it again. Clem with everything rallied across the map. Remember, we always talk about Clem's so good at attacking, but backstabs tend to be his weakness. Oliveira seems to have studied Dark, Maru, the other players that seem to get the better of him. And oh, Clem does get those tanks pulled back. He needed to siege on the low ground. More production going down, which is huge. And that means these tanks could get jumped on by some interference matrices as well. Really good fights. Look, the whole army is F2ing home here for Clem. Oliveira can just pick up and leave. He gets the starport and a factory. There's still one more factory that got rebuilt, but Oliveira's like, hey, dude, this is a good fight. I'm just going to keep fighting here. I mean, he eventually does lose those units. The medevacs will get caught, sadly, by the Marines by the looks of it. I'm surprised he didn't take care of these tanks in the meantime. Those medevacs sitting out in the open as well could be a juicy catch. Units lost tab is now 3,000 resources in the favor of Oliveira. So Oliveira's been down on income for like a lot of this game. I mean, that's the last 10 minutes, sometimes 2,000 resources less a minute coming in, but he's starting to trade better. And Clem is having to rebuild all of his production. This takes away a little bit of Clem's momentum. Whoa! Crazy engage for Oliveira! Oh! He just relies on interference matrixing almost every tank, but I don't know if he has enough Marines on the ground. But does he? Is Oliveira actually going to win this fight? This is a crazy engage for Oliveira. I don't know, man. This is a high-risk maneuver, but he kills every single medevac, which is huge. Remember, the starports did die. It's a bit of an evenish trade, I think. Let's look at the units lost. Yeah, that was just... I don't think this was a good choice for Oliveira. And now he's going to land the Vikings, but so many will die to these Marines and tanks. And that is very costly for Oliveira. That tank shelling from the top side is on 19 kills. Sergeant Chadhammer herself there. And like I said, 3,000 units lost there. But because Clem has so many more workers and bases, I mean, his income is double right now. And he's got 2 new starports up. He's still building just Marines, tanks, medevacs. He's decided this is the style he wants to play. He has like 1 billion barracks right now. He's not even building add-ons. He's just making barracks with no add-ons. So this is what happens. Oliveira is basically forced Clem to be a bit less efficient because of this. Oh, mass repair is pretty good. The tank splash, though, on the SCVs is kind of nasty. One more tank shot. Oh, actually gets a lot of those SCVs. Marines stim on the north side. They do take out a tank. Clem's down an army supply, but he's so addicted to being in this forward position, he may be overcommitting now. Oliveira is right now just licking his wounds, and I would say you'd be a bit traumatized from being stuck defending here, here, and here this entire game. But he says, hey, I've actually got an army advantage. I'm up 4,000 resources in the units lost. Let's push across this map. I have hung on tooth and nail and just kept fighting, and there hasn't been a drop in performance. Whenever anything gets hard for Oliveira, it feels like he's so consistent in his level of play. Clem, on the other hand, has to deal with the chaos now of having his production just a bit of a hot mess. He's got 2 factories, he's got like 14 barracks, 13, 2 starports with no add-ons. I mean, losing these barracks not that big of an issue, and it does feel like Clem is going to outsupply him soon. Clem right now sending a marine drop around to flank this army, but he's got to be careful of the Ravens. Clem is down in siege tanks right now as well. Of course, that's not going to last for very long. Raven, caught out here in the open, will be going down. I don't think losing those barracks hurts Clem at all, to be honest. I really don't feel that does anything to him. He's so rich. He's got so much money. The Raven does drop an armor missile and get away, which is pretty slick. This is a nasty position, though. If Clem tries to attack through that, he's attacking around this corner and then around that corner. That means his units will clump up massively. Oh, I don't mind that tank siege. That's actually a very good move. But oh, look at the retreat from Oliveira right when it looked like Clem was about to come in and start to spring on top of that. Oliveira hangs on, pulls back, and let's look at his comp. He's got libs, 9 tanks, 48 marines, 7 ravens. He's still down 30 marines in this game, and Clem once again dives in and takes out a sensor tower very nicely. Clem is loading up a doom drop. Oh god, oh god, oh god. And there's no vision. Oliveira's just been pinned back for so long, he has no vision. He has no vision. Oh no. Liberator will come in and do some big damage, which is really nice, but I feel like this doom drop is a game-winning doom drop. I don't know what Oliveira could possibly do against this. Clem has been ahead. He's got 4,000 extra minerals in the bank. He's doom dropping the main. 2 tanks pop out at the perfect time, but 2 tanks is not enough for that many marines. The Ravens are going to try and defend this with auto turrets by the looks of it. Interference matrices, the whole army coming back, but Clem takes position at the front at the same time. Oh man, this is going to be so hard to break. Nice interference matrices. He even doubles them up to make sure. And the Vikings are going to stop him from getting out. So all the medevacs do die. You know what? I thought that was going to be game-ending production damage. Doesn't actually end up being so. Marine finds the bottom base, though. He's got some Marines there that are picking off units. I mean, Oliveira's down to 49 SCVs. He's bleeding out. The tanks are sieging the planetary. He's got to keep this base alive. Oliveira has no money in the bank. Clem has a little bit of a gas shortage right now, but he's mining 900 a minute, which is enough to keep that going. 1 Raven goes down, and Clem unsieges. He will lose the tanks, but he's got a new army coming over. There's still a tank in the main with a single marine killing it. What the hell? That tank never got dealt with, apparently. Siege tanks in the middle. Clem is in a massive advantage economically, and he's up 10 army supply as well. Oliveira has been fighting so hard from behind. He's been using the Ravens very well, but he's been doing it from an inferior position time and again. His planetary is even burning down, not getting repaired. He's like, I can't even spare the cash to repair that, man. Clem does run in, and these Marines will eventually get on top of these siege tanks, but they take some big shots on the way in. Any trade's a good trade for Clem right now, though. And here we go. Push does come in. Oliveira is finally going to get some economic damage done. But, I mean, Clem's been on 8 bases versus, like, 3 or 4 for so long. Look at the income tab. Look at the income tab. Mining 2,300 resources more a minute. Clem is so far in. This is Oliveira's last-ditch effort. He sees the army flanking him. He needs the perfect fight. If Clem, he can see Clem wants to fight him, and there's no way Oliveira can get home. Oliveira basically needs to set up an unbreakable position right now. He's got a lot of Ravens that could do that. You can see Clem setting up on both sides. Oh, he's setting up a huge surround. I don't know what you could do as Oliveira. You're about to get surrounded right now. Look at that surround setting up. But actually, those guys aren't fully set up. They need to be down there if he wants to go for it. I like the way Oliveira runs up that side. Here he comes. Giant engage from Clem. The Ravens going to throw out those interference matrices before they go down. The Marines get back in position on the left side. He shuts down the entire tank line of Clem. The Marine rally from the right side gets shut down as well. And he manages to hold on and defeat that army, despite getting his ass kicked for 20 minutes. It was what? Dead even for 10 minutes. The last 14 minutes was him getting his ass slapped by Clem, but he kept getting the backstabs. He kept disrupting him. And at the end of the day, he fucking hangs on and wins a game, which I could not believe. Guys, I was watching this on the laptop, and I told you that. I was watching this live, but I was mostly watching the main stream. I kept looking back at the minimap, the supply, everything, and I literally was saying to Kalaris on the desk, wow, Oliveira's playing really good. He's not dead yet, but there's no way he wins this game. I said it 2 or 3 separate times while watching this game live. There is no way that he can win, but Oliveira is fighting really well. It's impressive that he's still alive. I said that like 3 times, and I was like, what the fuck, man? I was like, how? No, I mean, don't get me wrong. Clem may have left this game a bit early because there's not a lot of mobility here for him to capitalize, but the problem is for Clem, that was a botched engagement. He didn't need to fight there. If he was going to fight, he needed to do the full surround with Marines coming from the south as well. But you could tell this is what Oliveira did all tournament long, which is just keep fighting. And no matter how bad the situation was, his performance never dropped. And I actually feel almost all players, when the situation gets really hard, they get a bit panicky and start making some bad mistakes. But watch this Marine move on the right side. And look at how this makes Clem panic a bit. So Clem didn't set up this. These guys should have been here, or even all the way down here, so they can move straight through the opening. Instead, they're all going to get stuck behind each other on the terrain and mostly move north. Not only that, but he isolates a section of units up here and fights them on their own. And he forces the tank to siege back in the unit. So what this does is it prompts Clem to pull the trigger without those units being properly spread, and with these units sieging and pulling way too far back to the right side. Clem essentially A-moves what he thinks is a surround here, not realizing this prong on the right is too far back, and this prong that he thought, this section of units he thought was coming from down here, and they're not. So he ends up basically attacking through one choke point, and the Marines get back just in time. The tanks get killer volleys, and look at these Ravens landing interference matrices. They all die as they get their matrices off, but he shuts down all of the tanks except the one tank that doesn't siege. I mean, that was if he was a second late on any of that, he's screwed. If he didn't move to the right and make Clem feel the pressure, Clem probably would have set this round up better. But Oliveira hung on like an absolute monster. Keep in mind, guys, this map, he went on and then won the next map and 2-0'd Clem. The next map wasn't very exciting. It was a 10-minute game, very dominating for him. But if he didn't win that first map, if he dropped any map to Clem in this series, he would have been 1 map lower, tied for map score with Neeb. Neeb beat him in the head-to-head. Neeb would be the guy who's in that round of 12 match against Hero Marine. We keep talking about how he made the craziest comeback of all time versus Reina, but even in game 1 of the entire tournament, he showed the grit and the determination to just keep playing at his best no matter the circumstance, even in game 1 of the very tournament run, and that's bloody impressive. We've already talked about like Cyril and Ragnarok and all these other things that lined up to let Oliveira win the tournament where, you know, we think it would have been harder if he had to play Cyril in the finals. But at the end of the day, I think what stands out as the story of this championship was just the grit and determination and the true spirit of just the warrior spirit of fighting as best as he could. And it felt like he found and tapped into a special focus, and he said it in his interviews and while streaming after the event. He stopped obsessing over winning and he kept saying, just be happy to be here and just play your game and play your best. No expectations anymore. He went into Atlanta and bombed out having all these expectations, knowing he was really good and feeling he deserved results. He found a way to let go of that and to get out of his own way mentally and to show the best StarCraft we've ever seen from him. And he's actually continued these performances already in things like WTL right after the World Championship. I really feel like Oliveira has tapped into some sort of psychological understanding where he has evolved mentally as a player, and now finally he's got out of his own way and he's actually the new top Terran player in the world, right up there with Maru. He's just so bloody consistent right now. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. See you in the next one. Goodbye and good night.